You're listening to Real Talk Texas with local expert Steve Hakes. Now, here's Steve.
Welcome back. Today in the studio, we've got Alicia Trevino and Tom Greico. Alicia has Century 21 in Uptown. Tom has Greico Homes, and he does the design, the architecture work, as well as building the house. And we're talking about mid-century modern homes, and I've learned a little bit on the show about what that actually is. And what we wanted to do is really provide our listeners, provide you guys the information about, okay, what are the mechanics behind it? What are the real numbers? And we brought up Bishop Arts, and my son Scott, he's almost 30 years old, and we have breakfast there with him sometimes. Dana and I will go down and have breakfast at a place that he likes there, or we'll have there's a nice little pizza place that he likes down there as well. It's kind of like the cool and happening place. And so I used him as an example because I think he would probably be a great customer of both of you guys. And so how would you take Scott through this process of he's identified an area of town, and I want to make sure on a financial aspect that he doesn't get into a situation where he could get hurt financially. So how do you guys make sure that happens, that this is a good financial move as well as, I know he wants to have what he wants and he loves to show Mad Men, so he probably would fit right into that. So that mid-century design, how do you get that in the area that you want? Walk me through this. I know, Alicia, you're going to have a big play in this, I would think.
As a realtor, we have a lot of people come in and we ask them questions as to what is it that you really want. So we'd identify an area that's growing, that's transitioning. And there are several areas in Dallas that you see older homes that are being torn down and a new home being put up. So that's a really good place to start. Normally, I'm going to start with a reputable builder, and I'm going to go to the builder and I'm going to say, okay, so here's the type of design that I need. And in this particular case, it's mid-century modern, so I'm definitely going to go to Tom, who's an expert in this design. I mean, that's all he does. Very important that you find a realtor who understands the builders and what their expertise is. In this case, if your son's very interested in that kind of design, then we would go to Tom and say, okay, Tom, where do you think we should go? It may be harder for us to find a property to scrape than it is for Tom because he's already identifying places. But if not, then I'm going to go out and I'm going to start looking for investment properties that I can turn over. It takes a little time, so you want to know someone who actually is an expert at that. And I've dealt in that realm, and so I understand, yes, this is a good property. Then we sit down with the builder and we actually have a meeting and talk about financing, where you come in to see if this is truly an area where you're going to be able to repeat your value.
What did you mean by investment properties to take over? I got a little...
Investment properties. So you go into an area, you're not going to find a home that is for sale in good shape. You're going to look for that home that is in distress.
Okay.
Or, that you look at it and go, ooh, that house has not been taken care of. So that's the one you're going to pick up at a better value than, say, the property that's already finished out that, is going to resell. And there are many neighborhoods like that. I'm sure all of you out there can think of properties like Forest Hills is a neighborhood that's transitioning. Over by Marsh Lane, we have several areas. In the real estate realm, we call it Area 16. So over by Walnut Hill, there's some areas that are transitioning where the houses were built in probably, what do you say, the 1940s to 60s?
40s to
60s, where, you're in that place where, okay, do we do all the plumbing, all the electrical, the roof, everything that has to do with it, put in new lines so that we can get fast interacting internet, or do we tear the sucker down? And so a lot of times it makes sense to just go ahead and tear down and build again.
Especially at the cost that you were saying, Tom. I mean, I thought it was a huge expense, but if it's only $5,000 to $10,000 to start over with a house, I mean...
Sure. Well, and a lot of what you run into in those neighborhoods are, since those houses were built in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, they're all relatively small because apparently they were small people back then. They obviously didn't have many clothes in their closet, from what I can tell from these, and they didn't use the bathroom a lot. I don't know what that's about.
4 bathrooms is just essential.
To add on to them or to renovate them, to add on to them, it's a lot more feasible to just tear it down, scrape the lot, and start from beginning. That way also you could take advantage of the trees that they planted and actually make it work for you. What we do in that initial meeting is we sit down and establish what a budget is that the people are comfortable with, because that's really the driving force. And then we look for a neighborhood that they can, and we work it backwards. Our construction cost runs between, say, $130 and $150 a square foot for the construction plus the land.
And that's very reasonable.
And so what we do is we look for neighborhoods that we work it backwards. We look at the budget. We say, okay, we want to build 3,000 feet. We take that away from the budget. And we say, okay, we have $250,000 to spend on a piece of property. And then we look for neighborhoods that can support a $600,000 house. And that's the trick of it, is basically you want to not be the top end of the neighborhood.
You definitely want to work with a realtor who understands the difference between why is this house $200,000 and the one next door to it is $700.
Absolutely. And Alicia was exactly correct. You do look for projects. You look for houses that the people have stopped renovating it. They're barely habitable because those are the best values.
And you're going to buy that house for about the land costs or just a little bit more than that, right?
Exactly.
So then you're not really buying a house and then throwing that away. You're really buying it for the land value, and then we start our construction from there, right?
Right.
There has been a little bit of an uproar about doing that and destroying some of these neighborhoods. But at the end of the day, when you start looking some of these neighborhoods, it's time for renovation. So if you're not going in there and building something new, then the neighborhoods are actually going down in value. So I think we're doing it a big service by going in there and taking out those homes that are not going to be able to be renovated.
Sure.
And putting in another home that is going to bring up land values again.
Right. And Alicia, we've talked on other shows, and I've had other people in the studio. You know, we're talking about a huge population boom until 2030 here in the Metroplex. That's why all the road construction, but also in the in-town area, there's not enough inventory, first off, for sale. So I think possibly this distress inventory, you actually would end up getting exactly what you wanted. So let's stay on task with Scott. You know, that's what he wants to do. He wants to build this house over there. So let's say he puts 10% down on the house. He ends up building a house that adds up to be like $500,000 in price if we're used, you know, the right house size and things like that. And you, Alicia, have done the work to make sure that he's secure and that he's not going to be overpriced in the neighborhood and be in a bad situation. I want to give our listeners out there just kind of an idea of what your monthly payment would be on a $500,000 house. And this is kind of cool because right now interest rates are so low. It's just incredible. But you're looking somewhere around $2,200 a month just in principal and interest, not your taxes and insurance, but just that on a $450,000 loan over 30 years. And if you wanted to be what I always preach, and I'll preach to Scott again here, is go with the 15-year deal, and that would be only $33.30 a month, $33.30 a month on a $450,000 loan, $500,000 house that you would build me exactly what I want. And, you know, it's very affordable. I mean, if you think about it, it's especially for a young couple, dual income, you can do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, you avoid the HOA costs, too, because if you're going into an older neighborhood, you don't have the HOA fees. So that's something that nowadays, almost everywhere, if you go into the suburbs, you're looking at some added costs in HOA. And what you cannot build, no matter how hard you try, is those 30-year-old trees.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well,
Absolutely.
and if you were thinking about a high-rise condo, those HOA fees, if you want to live in an urban area, those can be really high. I know because we do a lot of those loans.
Yeah, they're definitely different, too. I mean, it has the feel of a high-rise. You know, Mid-Century does have that feel of openness that you feel when you're up high in a high-rise and you get those views. I think that is one of the big pluses from someone scaling down from, say, a high-rise with big windows down to Mid-Century, living on the ground and an open space.
Well, in addition, it gives you a little more privacy than the high rises do. But you also have this huge expanded living space where you could actually have a pool out there. You could, you know, and you can entertain in the courtyard area or in the yard area, of which it's just a great place to be. It's kind of a little oasis, if you will.
And I will say, after we sold our house, Dana and I, the one big thing I miss right now, and we're in transition, so we're trying to figure out what we want to do. And I've thought about the high-rise living. That initially was what I wanted to do. But, man, I miss my grill. You know, and it's kind of weird, but that I never realized how much, and I probably ate healthier when I had my own house and had that outdoor living where you can walk out, just throw a kebab on the grill. You know, that's really a nice lifestyle.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And for those of you who don't know Mid-Century Modern, I'm going to have to give out a big shout out to one of my managers. His name is Christian Peterson, who actually introduced me to this kind of design. And in the beginning, seriously, I looked at it and I was just like, oh my gosh, KP, I don't get it. It's just so simple. And now the more I look at it, the more I'm in love with this design and the feel of it. And so I do encourage people to go out, Google mid-century design, take a look at it, and tour your homes, because I think they'll be very surprised at how it feels.
Well, thanks. What we try to do also is I kind of look at the house as the canvas, and that the furniture and the artwork and stuff in there is that, and basically the house is not stealing the limelight from what your possessions are.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, we got to wrap this up today, guys, and I apologize. I know that we could talk for days on this topic, and if you've been listening today and you're thinking, boy, I didn't really realize that I could do a new home that was built, mid-century modern, something that was really cool in a great area where I have walkability, things like that, and you're really thinking that you'd like to do that, please send a text to the show or leave a message, 817-925-2546. That's 817-925-2546, and we'll put you in contact with our experts here on the show, Tom Greico and Alicia Trevino, for home building in the urban area of Dallas. That's really great product. So thanks for being on the show today. If please tune in next week. And next week we've got Jenny Manning, our Plano Frisco real estate expert, and she's going to have Johnny Gordon, the president of Burgess Home Inspections. We're going to talk about getting that home inspected when you're ready to buy. And as always, for the best financing in the Metroplex and the best rates, lowest fees, contact me, your host, Steve Hakes, at 214-643-6021, or just send that text to the 817-925-2546 and say, finance me. So thanks for listening to Real Talk Texas on KLIF AM 570, News and Information.